That's what I thought you were going to say. So that means that you have a long way to go. Special Topics 2 Test 4, Hybrid Alternative Fuels Text. When a battery becomes completely discharged, both positive and negative plates become what? And the electrolyte becomes what? And these are what? This is chemistry here, guys.
A.
PbSO4 and H2O. That's D. What does deep cycling mean in regards to batteries? D? D? Fully discharged and then recharged. How does that affect a regular car battery?
It burns it.
It destroys it. That's why so many of our cars around here, our trainer cars, have got bad batteries. That's why I buy the ones that are guaranteed for a long time, because they just, will keep feeding me the one. But what is one thing you always learn how to do really, really good in this automotive program? If you don't learn nothing else, you learn how to jump a car off. You can jump a doggone car off if you can't do nothing. Huh?
And to break into one.
Yes, break into a car. Yeah, you break into her car. And every 10 days or so, somebody will come in and say, "I locked my keys in my car. Can you help me get in it?"
Sometimes it'll be 4 one a day.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
with tires. You
Yeah.
never see a tire. Then one day, 30 people need tires fixed.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of tires. Which battery rating is tested at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 18 degrees Celsius?
Cold cranking.
Yeah, cold cranking amps. Which battery rating is expressed in minutes? Reserve capacity. Very good. What battery rating is tested at 32 degrees Fahrenheit?
Cranking
C. I mean B.
Which is it? That's D, isn't it? That's cranking amps. When load testing a battery, which battery rating is usually used to determine how much load to apply to the battery? Ah, look at there. You guys know that one?
No. NCA.
Cold cranking amps.
It is
Yeah.
cold cranking.
Yep. A battery high rate discharge test is being performed on a 12-volt battery. Technician A says a good battery should have a voltage reading of higher than 9.6 volts. Well, under load at the end of a 15-second test, Technician B says the battery should be discharged loaded to twice its CCA rating. Who's right about that?
A.
A is right about that. Go to twice. When charging a lead acid flooded type, what do I mean flooded? What do I mean flooded? What's it flooded? What's flooded mean? I mean somebody played with the gas too much and wet the spark plugs, or what? What's it? It's got liquid electrolyte in it, guys. Got it? So anyway, whenever charging a lead acid flooded type battery, A, the battery temperature should not exceed 125 degrees Fahrenheit. B, the battery may not accept a charge for several hours, yet still be a good battery. C, the initial charging rate should be about 35 amps for 30 minutes. Or D, all of the above. D, all of the above. The problem we used to have when I was working at the new car dealership over there is these salesmen would not pull the ignition off draw fuse out of these Chrysler and Jeep products. And so they would, the radio and the computers and all that stuff would kill the battery after it had been sitting there about 2 or 3 weeks. And so they'd walk out there to, somebody wanted to test drive one, the battery would be dead on it. And so they want us to rush over there and put a new battery in it, whenever all they really needed was for that one to be charged up, But typically what happens though, when you watching your amp meter on your battery charger, you turn it on charge, like if the battery's, completely dead. You turn it on charge, what are you going to see on the amp meter to start with? On the battery charger. It's got a meter that tells you how many amps is going in the battery. You won't see nothing to start with. And then after a while you'll see it go up and start showing a charge. Here's another thing. If you got a big strong battery charger like the ones we use out here, and you connect it to a battery, and this is a basic rule of thumb, when you connect it to a battery and you try to start the car, like you put it on, start, the problem with those battery chargers, if you put them on the start setting, if there's not a battery in there that's chargeable, then it won't start the car, even though you got the battery charger on start. You got to have a good battery in there, or a battery that will take at least some of a charge, or that battery charge. But if you turn it on start and you got a good connection and it goes, it still won't do it, that's a bad battery. That's a quick test, but we go into some other battery testing in electrical systems too. There are various different ways to test them. Where are the AGM auxiliary batteries located in a hybrid electric vehicle? And what does AGM stand for?
I'm looking at you in hopes that you'd go ahead and just say it.
What is it? Somebody needs to tell me what AGM batteries stand for. They're typically, when they got them, they're in the trunk. And they're a little different, the ones for the hybrid vehicle, because they got small posts on them. These are glass mat batteries, or what they are. Inside the batteries, you got glass mats. They're different kind of battery, but it's still a 12-volt battery. And you know, which kind of battery is most used in hybrid electric vehicles? Now see, this is the thing you got to remember. In hybrid electric vehicles, all of your stuff on the dash and the normal stuff that would ordinarily run on 12 volts still runs on 12 volts. They're not going to run 330 volts or whatever your battery's pushing up through your dash and all this other stuff. And remember what I told you guys about the batteries on a hybrid vehicle? The ground side of that hybrid battery is not grounded to the frame anywhere. It's totally isolated. That's an isolated system, and it's going through those inverters. But you have a DC to DC converter, right? You got DC coming out of the battery. The battery is going to run those motors that are going to start the engine and drive the car, is converted by these inverters to AC. But you got a DC to DC, you got DC to AC, you got DC to DC. Every motor has got its own inverter, basically. So you got to have it where you got a battery power being fed to all these things, and you got all these inverters, and everywhere on that motor you got an electric motor that's pulling any kind of a load. You've got you got an inverter to do it. But the DC to DC converter is there to keep the 12-volt battery charged up, 14.5 volts. And when you energize that system, you don't know if it actually has closed its contactors and it has fired up, because the engine doesn't always start, right? So the quickest way you can do that, if you take a meter and you put it on the battery, your 12-volt battery up there in the front, which is what feeds your stuff in the dash and everything, that ought to show about 14.5 volts if that system's online, because the power coming out of that big battery is going through the DC to DC converter and it's bringing that battery up. And you can kind of tell that way. Each cell of an automotive 12-volt battery can produce about how many volts?
You just skipped 2 questions.
Did I quiz? Oh, I'm sorry. The AGM battery differs from a conventional flooded battery in what way? Huh? I cannot. I started to read that one and then I got sidetracked. What type of battery is most likely used in an electric vehicle? That's number 10. That's nickel metal hydride, but some of the people, some of the battery rebuilders are putting lithium ion cells in them now. But I have been reading some stuff recently on some of the motor age sites and all the search auto parts, that they're coming up with something, battery that's based on sugar.
You were reading that yesterday.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be a lot better than lithium ion, right?
Dielectric.
AGM battery differs from a conventional flooded battery in what way? That's number 11. The electrolyte is absorbed into a glass separator and will not spill. We like batteries that won't spill. Each cell of an automobile 12-volt battery can produce how many volts?
2.1.
2.1, because we got 6 cells there, right? Battery electrolyte is a mixture of water and what?
Sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid. Have you ever spilled battery acid on your blue jeans?
Yes.
What happens?
Burns right through it. Burns right through it.
Yeah, it just eats them up like bleach. May as well spill bleach on there. You know why it's a good idea to typically always wear safety glasses when you're jumping a car off?
So you're gonna go blind?
Yeah, if that thing blows up in your face, and sometimes it can just when you're just hooking the jumper cables up. I mean, I've seen it.
Batteries blow up, make a spark.
You seen them blow up? You seen one blow up?
No.
Huh?
But I've been here for 3 semesters instead of every semester.
Every semester. I'm telling you, if it saves your eyeballs, it's worth me telling you it 20 times. Because I was, I told about the story. I was taking a battery terminal off, doing something real innocent. Put a wrench on there. About the time I got the wrench right here, the battery exploded. My arm caught all that stuff. I wasn't wearing any eye protection, but my arm happened to be in the right spot. But that's a blinding experience. Donnie Hughes said he saw one blow up one time, and he literally, in slow motion, saw jagged pieces of plastic and stuff going past his head. That's what he remembered. All that stuff, it just comes all to pieces.
I know
And
that day I come up here to that door and that battery was sitting on charger and smoking.
Mhm.
Yeah, turn it
Yeah, there was a boiling battery over. That's right. The battery that I was charging for the 350 over there had been on charge for too long or something. I can't remember how all that happened, but anyway, it was just boiling and smelling like rotten eggs and all that kind of stuff. And there were no rotten eggs here, so I know there's a problem. You know, so, all right, let me see here. Battery electrolytes, mixture of sulfur gas and water. Let's see. Technician A says an AGM battery can be charged with any battery charger. Is he true or is he false?
No.
I believe that's false.
Technician B says an AGM battery requires a charger especially designed for charging AGM batteries. Who's correct about that? You know what the best way to do that if you don't have a special battery charger? Start the car. Just let it charge the battery. It works just fine. I mean, it's the smartest way to do it. I mean, those are in hybrid vehicles, you know. Now on the Ford Escape, whenever the big hybrid battery back there went dead, if it happened to go dead, you could push a little button and it would use what was in the main battery to start feeding some voltage back there to charge that big one. Then you charge that one up again and do it again, and you could bring that battery in the back up. But I think nobody but Ford did that, and they quit doing it after a while. Let me see what I can go in here. Technician A says the state of charge on a nickel metal hydride battery can be determined by measuring cell voltage. Technician B says many factors should be considered in determining the state of charge of a nickel metal hydride battery, including temperature, output current, cell voltage. Which technician is correct? That's B, actually. Whenever they're rebuilding batteries, there's a whole bunch of tests they subject each cell to. You got to take the bus bars off that go from cell to cell. You got to hook them up to a special charger, and you charge each one. You bring it down. You know, you refresh and all that. And you also take a temperature gun. I mean, like that forward-looking infrared camera I got in there, and you shoot all those batteries and see if any of them are hotter than the rest of them. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you got to do if you're going to rebuild these hybrid batteries the right way. Now, I will tell you something else. The batteries that we have, and I've got one out there, I'm eventually going to drag out from under there and get out of the box and show it to you. There's a bus bar that runs all the way down each side, you know, that big bunch of batteries that are stacked together. And those things get all chalky and corroded just like car batteries. And so sometimes you got to take that apart, tool them, screws off there, clean it all up and put it back together. And that's just part of the deal on hybrid vehicles. Those things get like that. But they have a wire going to each battery, and a scan tool can basically tell you a lot about the state of each little battery cell in there. It's got a whole wad of them. You know. Okay, what type of battery uses two different electrolytes?
Is it A?
Sodium metal chloride. Technician A says the nominal voltage for one lead acid battery is 1.2 volts. Technician B says the nominal voltage for one nickel metal hydride battery cell is 2.1 volts. Who's correct about that? That's actually D, neither one of them. I kind of got that backwards there. Technician A says one type of nickel metal hydride cell is cylindrical. Technician B says one type of nickel metal hydride cell is triangular. Which technician is correct about that? That would be A. No triangular things out there. Which batteries use solid electrolytes? Lithium polymer. You should know that. Okay. All the following statements regarding nickel metal hydrides are true except A. Nickel metal hydride cells produce 3.6 volts. B. Nickel metal hydride batteries have an excellent cycle life. C. Nickel metal hydride batteries use potassium hydroxide for electrolyte. And finally, nickel metal hydride batteries can be housed in a steel container. That's basically going to be an A there. Look at her go. She just knew that answer. Technician A says nickel metal hydride batteries are an alkaline design. Technician B says high voltage battery packs are constructed using nickel metal hydride cells connected in parallel. Which technician is correct? What did you say? Now, are the high voltage battery packs, if you connected, how many volts were there for each nickel metal hydride battery? Remember?
1.2.
Did you read that though? What do you got? What is it?
1.2.
What do you think? Whatever. If you got a 1.2, let's just go with your 1.2, and that's okay.
Is that
We're going to go
right?
with 1.2. Wait a minute. Come down this way. We're going to wire all of these batteries together in parallel. How many volts we got?
How many batteries?
50. Hmm?
60.
Maybe 600, wouldn't it?
No. Did you wire them all in parallel?
1.2 per battery.
That's right. And they're wired parallel.
So 1.2 times 50.
They're parallel. Hey, Joey, come here, boy.
I thought there was more than
What's
one
up?
cell in each battery though.
What's up?
No, I just
For each
checked.
battery.
Yeah, we are.
1.2 volts.
Huh?
So
Each battery is 1.2
Each
volts.
battery's 1.2 volts and they're wired parallel.
1.2.
No, it would be, that would be,
Wait, in
that's if it was
parallel?
series.
Yeah.
How much is it?
I forget that. You have to.
I'll just pick
The
mine
way-
up
the
like
way-
since you're in the
the
The way
classroom.
series works is it multiplies it, and then I believe the way parallel
There's
divides
a
it.
small equation being parallel.
If they're parallel, you're gonna have a really, really, really strong 1.2 volt battery with lots of life. Because if they're wired parallel, it's 1.2 volts.
So I'm trying to do resistance.
If we put them in series, that's when you start doing your multiplication and everything.
Well, what was that? When the light bulbs was in parallel, we had a like add them and then divide by the amount of bulbs or something like that.
That was resistance.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're thinking of-
that's what I was thinking of when I said divided.
But if you put batteries in parallel, how are you hooking up jumper cables whenever you jump a car off?
In series.
Parallel. If you're hooking them in series, you're gonna have 24 volts going into there. You're gonna fry all your electronics, you know? Now, when I was working on cars, they just had old crummy carburetors on them and everything, you know, years ago, and it was spinning kind of slow because it hadn't been started a long time. I'd hook them up 24 volts, you know, and do that. I saw my dad do that, and I was thinking, well, if he can do that, I can do that, you know. Now, what is this right here?
It's just where he ordered it, he had to pick it up and then
Did he credit it back to me?
yeah, see.
Okay, well, make sure that she staples these two together.
And C22.
Make sure she staples them two together, because that's important. And there's the accumulator. Okay, so that was always pretty scary whenever you did that, you know. Yeah. That one there has already been charged out. Tell her that's already been charged out.
Okay,
And, but I'll have to give her the work order number.
okay.
Goodness, Kathy, you got 756 tickets here.
I know.
A lot of them are credits. Y'all gonna owe me money at the end of the month, aren't you?
Yeah.
Steering column, rocks, that's a credit. All right, take that and run with it.
Okay.
Okay, now then, let me get back in here. That's
So number
right.
21 was it B only? Where's it both?
What's that now? 21 is 21's a an alkaline design. What are they talking about when they say alkaline versus acid?
What do you mean?
There's acid batteries and there's alkaline batteries. Tell me what's the difference between acid and alkaline?
Alkaline
pH is different?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so which way am I going? What's neutral?
0.
No.
I can't
Seven.
remember.
What?
7.
7. That's right. Now, which way is alkaline and which way is acid?
Acid is positive. Is it not?
Acid is negative.
Acid's going down towards 0.
Okay.
Alkaline's going up. Now, why does alkaline or acid work for batteries? I mean, why is it that I can take a voltmeter and stick it in a lemon and get voltage?
Because it's acidic in it.
Yeah, acid. It's unbalanced, and there's electrodes flowing. I mean, electrons, excuse me, electrodes. Okay,
That lemon has a lot of electrodes.
yes, it does. What is the voltage of this battery pair when measured at the plus and minus cables?
12.
24.
All right. Okay, now you know this how.
Because those batteries are in series.
Those are parallel.
Who said
Series.
24 volts?
I do. Because that's how we used to hook up our batteries and generators.
Well, wait a minute. What? The positive batteries posts are hooked together. The negative battery posts are
Never
hooked
mind, no, it
together.
wouldn't. Okay, no, I see how it is now.
Did they mess you up on that?
Yeah, that messed me up.
Okay, so talk to me again. How many volts?
It's gonna be 12.
12 volts. One time, this guy gave me a battery out of a military Jeep that was 24 volts. And it was a little battery, I guess, and I carried it in the trunk of my car. And so when some of these old cars needed to be jumped off, I just hook them up with the car. We just spin that starter up a storm. Surprised I didn't burn something up like that, but that was ages ago whenever nothing had electronics on it.
Back in the day when they didn't make things like they used to.
Listen to him. He's trying to date me. What it was. I asked him yesterday if he remembered the tune to some Western TV series, and he said, I'm 25 years old. How am I supposed to remember that? You know? Well, they've had them on syndication, though. All right. How are the, he's the one, he doesn't like Jurassic Park. Who doesn't like
Is it
Jurassic
you
Park?
that don't like Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I don't like Jurassic Park.
Huh?
Y'all are freaking crazy.
Both these
Cheesy
guys,
as hell.
these guys are related somehow. I don't know how, but they are. Okay, so whatever.
Outrageous.
Yeah, that's weird, you know, what it is.
I grew up on Jurassic.
Spared no expense. Okay, here we go. How are the high voltage batteries cooled in a hybrid electric vehicle?
Circulating cabinet.
They use ice packs,
They got a whole bunch of ice packs.
opening a folding roof
Yeah,
flap,
it's forced air.
circulating cabin air. Now, it depends on the vehicle you're talking about.
Yeah, because it could be in the trunk.
Well, yeah, sometimes they'll circulate the air-conditioned air from inside the car through them. But the Ford Escape uses the same air conditioner compressor as the rest of the air conditioning. It's got a special evaporator back there in the back, and it's got an air inlet. If you look at a hybrid Escape, you'll see an air inlet back there by the back glass, and it lets air come in, and it goes into this through this evaporator, and it just keeps that battery pack frosty cool.
So still, it's about forced air.
Well, it's not just forced air though. It's air conditioned on an Escape, air conditioned with Freon and refrigerant and all. But on the rest of them, it uses air conditioned cabin air, and fans pull them through there. Now you got to keep those battery packs cool. And on the Chevy Volt, they have to liquid cool a pack
So circulating cabinet.
because there would be a fire hazard. So, and it runs all the way down the middle of the car, and it's big,
So circulating cabin air, or for this?
Well, this particular question doesn't include the Ford Escape. I mean, it sort of left that one out, but it's C, circulating cabin air. What's the electrolyte used in a nickel metal hydride battery?
Sodium HTO.
Potassium hydroxide, remember that.
It was.
That sound just rolls off your tongue like peas off a knife, don't it? Potassium hydroxide. It's a lot easier than saying rubber baby boogie bumpers, isn't it? You can say that, can't you? Can you say that? Can you say that? Rubber baby boogie bumpers?
I can say it.
Say it.
I'm not going to.
What about you? Can you say it?
Can't even say it.
You can't even say it. Can you say it? Rubber baby boogie
You're gonna get in
bumpers?
this way. Don't do it.
Huh?
You can say it.
Can you say rubber baby buggy bumpers?
You don't say it.
It's hard. Can you say it?
And we
Everybody-
tried
nobody wants to even
before
try
me
it.
and You and I stumbled
Yeah.
on it.
Rugged rubber baby bumpers.
See? rugged bug. Okay, never mind. This is.
Rubber baby
Hey,
bumpers.
how did I lose control of the class? Okay, let me come back here. Okay, here we go with the. Okay, well, let me see. 144 volt nickel metal hydride battery will have how many cells connected in series? Ding, 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 ding. It's time to do some math, y'all. Come on. 144 volt will have how many, nickel metal hydride will have how many volts connected in series?
72.
Think about it. How many volts per cell?
Was I right the first time when I said 1.2?
What do you
So
think?
120.
It's not 120 because it's not even an answer on here.
Now that was
You need to go
amateurish,
back.
amateur hour in the classroom.
Well, 1.4 divided by 1.2 would be that. So you were wrong.
What? It is 1.2 because he just looked at me
You
and
did the
nodded and
math
said
wrong. The
1.2.
math would be 72 divided by
I'll throw a Pringles candy.
1.2.
Really?
Times.
Wait a minute, what are you doing? Why don't you multiply 114 by 1.2 and see what you get?
Show me how to live my life.
Hmm? Get a smartphone.
I got an iPod. I don't need a smartphone.
I got an iPhone, I don't need a smart pod. What?
You pay too much money.
No, actually, I don't have one of those. The answer is 114, you guys.
That's what I said.
The high voltage battery is normally kept at a state of charge of what? At the high voltage battery in a hybrid vehicle, basically.
Just kept that 80%.
What's the normal target? The normal target of charge,
80, 60, what?
80.
It's 80.
what did you say?
60.
60. 60 is what we're shooting. The target, the actual target is 60% charge. If you go too high, if you go too low, it's bad for the battery. Keeping it about 60 to 80% is optimum. 80 is almost too high, So these are true-false questions, and these are the ones that, if I could put a whole bunch of true-false questions on a test, and if somebody just wings it, they just about crash on every one of those.
Christmas tree.
Yeah. The high voltage battery disconnect should be pulled out before refueling a hybrid electric vehicle.
False.
Do you think Granny's going to do that before she fuels up her Prius? I don't think so. Lead acid batteries release explosive gases when being charged.
False.
Come on. Boom. When jump starting, the cable should be firmly held on battery by hand.
False.
84.
Yeah, what is that 84 there for? I don't have a clue. Somebody stuck that on a paper. 30. Hybrid electric vehicle auxiliary batteries cannot be safety jump started.
And false.
That is false. You can jump start them.
So what was 28? Boom?
False.
What? No, the 28 is they do have explosive gases, and that can lead to a boom. And that doesn't mean that you're going to have financial,
So it's true?
windfalls either. It is true. If you're, that rotten egg gas, you strike two jumper cables together over that, it's adios muchachos.